Hey folks, welcome to the Long Story Short. It's Anne Marie Otanes, your Chief of Staff Architect. I'm so excited for the special guest that I've got today. This is somebody who has been so influential in my career in so many ways. And I'm lucky that I can also call this person my friend. So not only are they helping me be just a good person at work, but just a better person in the world. So Tom Hockert, welcome to my series.
Thank you so much. It's awesome to be here. Awesome to see what incredible work you're doing. It's always been fun to be a part of your career journey. So thanks for bringing me along.
Absolutely. I want to give you a moment just to introduce yourself to my audience and tell them who you are and what you do.
Well, thank you. I run a team focused on delivery operations and customer satisfaction. So when we think about delivery operations, we think about the consulting business and how we run the operations as well as how we think about driving improvement in the business. So we have a fundamental focus on change management, organizational change management, and how to grow success in the business and how to evolve the business through a series of improvements to the business through listening channels and through how we execute what we do. And then on the customer satisfaction front, we run the survey program for Microsoft's industry solution delivery team. So we do all the surveys, we do all the analysis of those surveys, and we drive the improvement work that comes out of those discussions with our customers.
That's awesome. So my series, just to remind folks, so I have an opportunity to talk to a variety of different people. A lot of them happen to be chief of staffs, aspiring chief of staffs, existing chief of staffs, but I also have the unique opportunity to talk to people who work with chief of staffs like you, and make sure that that partnership is something that's really strong. And you listed a whole plethora of things that you do to make sure that the business is running smoothly. Um, the questions I love to ask is, as you're looking at your business and as you are interacting with chief of staffs, what's one or two things that you have found that has helped you have kind of a symbiotic relationship to make sure that you're able to do your best work, but that chief of staff is able to step in and support you in an effective manner?
Yeah, I've had people, I think as my team has grown globally and as I've um, had my hands in more and more things, I've found people to fill a kind of interim chief of staff role. So I'm familiar with the joys of having a strong chief of staff, and I've worked with them in my leaders and their leadership level. I would say a couple of critical things are, one, the pulse on the health of the business. So that's not just the health of the operations, are the finances good, all that you can get, I think, relatively quickly, and it's all data driven. That's interesting. But the true pulse that I find as kind of my number one for a good chief of staff is, how is the team functioning? Is there a healthy culture? Is there a healthy partnership between the leaders and the business that the chief of staff supports? And that's a fundamental that can break down quickly in large organizations, because as leaders, we're all going in our own direction. We have all a huge portfolio of work to govern. And if we're not careful, we can run into our peers, and that can create tension and then create breakdown in culture. And so having a good pulse across the team, and not just at the top levels, right? But having ways in which to see.
Mm.
We had a whole grapevine strategy, right? That when I had somebody who kind of acted in that role, who was out testing what was happening in all the different parts of the business and kind of giving me insights on, hey, you've got problems over here. They think things aren't working right, but they're not willing to tell you because of A, B, and C. And no matter how hard as a leader you work to be open and approachable, there's always a culture or an experience where some people are going to be hesitant to tell you bad news. And so that chief of staff really has to be getting that pulse. So to me, that's kind of a number one. What's the true state of the business, both from the operating side, but also from the human side, and that human side is the biggest for me.
You know what? I
Um,
jump in really quickly because you said something that I really appreciate, and I share this with a lot of people that I work with. Is the chief of staff? I say they're the heart of the business because, like you said, you are checking to see how are people doing, and I've expressed that you could be the most approachable leader in the world. people shy away from titles for whatever reason.
Yep.
And even though the chief of staff sits in that leadership body, there's something about the fact that that role seems to be more approachable to individuals. And so I've had people who've come to me and they've shared things with me that they were afraid to share with our executive. And it wasn't anything earth shattering, but and then I would go back to the executive and say, I'm going to just share themes because I want to maintain
Yep.
confidentiality unless that person has asked me. And when you've got a great partnership with that executive, they're like, I'll give me the themes then. That's great. I want to understand what's going on in this area. So I love the grapevine visual that you gave me. And I love that that's the first thing you highlighted is that chief of staff sometimes is an entryway into that leadership body for feedback that somebody may not necessarily know that they have, or they're going to utilize it because they think that's the only one that they have. So thank you for that. What was your second point that you were going to raise?
So for me, it's thinking forward on the operating environment that a leader has, right? So when I think about my successes with that sort of quasi chief of staff on my side, and then ones that I've worked with, they are anticipating what's happening in the business and planning forward. Hey, we have to do people review, so I'm going to give people advance warning. I'm not going to say a day before, are you all ready to go? Here's the template. No, and as a leader, what you want to be doing is moving strategy forward. You want to be thinking about where we're going next and fixing the bigger problems, or kind of getting the team aligned around the big problems and making sure they understand the vision and the approach. And if you're stuck in, hey, the tactical work of today isn't functioning well, or somebody on your leadership team is not doing their job effectively because they don't get the timing, then you're out of the how do I move the business forward. And so that a really good chief of staff is sort of anticipating the rhythm of business and moving that structure forward and driving their peers and that leadership team to, hey, these are the things that need to get done now. These are the things where the last time you brought them forward, didn't go as well. So let's talk about how you get that cleaner so that the leader has less time wasted in the noise and the nonsense, and kind of clearing out the noise and the nonsense of that process is super valuable, and setting up process and program structure. So like, the typical stuff of there's an action item list that they're on top of that people know they own and they have to go do it. And that power and that drive of moving the actions forward and keeping the business operating effectively allows a leader to be a good leader and not
Mhm.
a tactical leader.
Yeah, you know what? It's all about learning how to balance. Because early on in my career as a chief of staff, I drove everything,
Yeah.
and you can't. And
No.
as I evolved and got more business savvy and understood the business more, I was leading teams. So I would partner with people. And so I may see something that's going on, identify the pain points, but then I'd have a supporting body. So in our organization, we have virtual teams, V teams. And so
Yeah.
I would have V teams because I can't do everything. I might be able to identify things that need to be done, but I can't be an extension of my leader if I'm in the weeds all the time and they're not able to hand things off to me. And I had leaders who would just hand things off to me. I remember having a leader who, if he wasn't able to go into that meeting for me and make sure that you represent what we need and understand what do I need to get back. And so now my day was changed because I needed to step in, and I wasn't that leader,
Right.
but I was an extension of that person to make sure that I understood what was going on. And you can't do everything. You've got to learn how to balance what's going on tactically, so you can be involved in the strategy. Because at the end of the day, that is where like our superpower is helping moving the business forward. So I like that. Um, let's switch it just a little bit. In your work with, chiefs or interim chiefs, what have you found that has been a gotcha where you're like, oh, you'll never make that mistake twice, or we'll learn together. You know what I'm saying? Because we all have those moments. Like people think this is like this amazing, and it is an amazing role, but we carry some burdens on our shoulders, and we have to be able to pivot quickly to change.
Oh, for sure. And I think, the big one for me is the connection to your leader, the person you're acting a chief of staff for, right? I think where I've seen the pain is, hey, I know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go do it, and I've got it figured out. But you don't have sync. It doesn't mean that you're taking tactical direction from your leader. That I think is kryptonite. That'll kill you if you're taking tactical direction. You have to be a leader, and you have to be able to drive outcomes. But if
Yeah,
you're out over your skis on what it is, the vision or the strategy is, and you're trying to make a move without the leader aligned to you, you can lose the moment, but that's kind of neither here nor there. That'll get fixed. It's the credibility that comes with it, and the power of the chief of staff is the credibility of the leader behind you. Like you said, you go and act on behalf in a meeting, and in general, people are like, oh, the chief's here, that means the leader's here. We're good. Let's keep moving. But if at any point there's a crack in the, oh, I'm not sure the chief actually represents the leader, that everything starts to break down, and the power of the chief will fall apart really quickly from there.
yeah, yeah. I like the term credibility. Again, something that I continue to learn as a chief of staff is I need to be in sync with my leader. I need to have appropriate context for what's going on. I don't need to have all context. And quite often, I've worked for leaders who are extremely technical. And I'm not a coder, I'm not an engineer. I have an appreciation for those roles and their importance, but understanding the big picture and where I can help provide some impact to what's happening is key. And I have to be very careful because what's the famous saying, it takes years to build trust, it takes a second to lose it, and then
Absolutely.
it takes forever. Like we have got to be the most intentional group of people on the planet because we're really careful about how do we show up? How do we show up for that leader? And if something doesn't seem right, how do we adjust? And so, yeah, having that credibility is so important. And in those cases where that credibility is lost, I mean, you have to do, the work to regain it, to make sure that it's back into place. And so at least if you've got champions or mentors or people in that space that can help, that's so important. Um, that's been awesome. Like, thank you so much for like what you shared. For me, it just reminds me that I'm in a position that I'm always going to be growing, learning, developing. I have loved having you as a mentor. I love having you as a mentor because I learned so much from you. I want to give you the last moment. If there's any, you know, final words or points that you want to leave to my audience before we close our session today.
Yeah, first of all, like when you call me mentor, it feels like of all the years we've worked together, it's been a two-way street, right? And I think that's the beauty of a good relationship, a good mentorship relationship is it's a two-way street, right? It's I'm not bringing wisdom to you and you're all consuming. Like that feels silly and not how we've related to one another, right? We've given each other great insights and coaching, and the relationship we've built has been super valuable in that way. I think as you like the amazing work you're doing with the chiefs of staff, the it is a role that is essential to the success of large organizations. It is the role that allows organizations to come together and have success. And absent that, you have a bunch of leaders who run into each other and break things. And it's not intention, right? You can ignore intention from all of that and just see the reality in the execution. And having somebody that can smooth the machine and keep it moving and bringing it together is invaluable, as is the sort of flip side of that of being the one person among this group of leader peers who can tell each one of them what to do, whereas I can't tell my peers what to do. I can only ask them to work with me, right? And so to have that kind of power and accountability is a really critical thing, and it's awesome to see you invest in helping everybody get better at that because again, good leaders need that expertise because good leaders are focused on trying to move forward in the business, and having a good partner in the chief of staff means you're much more effective at moving the business forward because they can anticipate where you're going because they get you and they know how to help you And they can have that chief of staff can have incredible impact on the success of the business, or be a part of why the business just never quite gets to where it should be. So I love where you're going. I think it's amazing to see, and I look forward to seeing more of it.
Thank you so much, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed listening to Tom as much as I do. I love having conversations with him. This was the long story short. Your Chief of Staff Architect, Anne Marie, and I will see you at our next session. Thank you again, Tom.
Thank you so much.